Welcome to Health Matters with Dr. Nelson Bulmash, sponsored by the UI Radio Network at uiradionetwork.org. Catch us on Facebook and Instagram at United Intentions and Twitter at Higher Intention. Look for us on 99.1 FM, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, and many more. Over the next hour, we'll introduce you to some fascinating people and engaging discussions that may provide you with answers to assist in revolutionizing your own personal health. And now, here's Dr. Nelson.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2021. Listen, I know many of you have gone through tremendous hardships. I was speaking to a friend of mine who, near the end of 2021, she'd been in self-isolation, in quarantine, so to speak, for several months. Her husband ended up dying, and they're not sure what. And 4 days later, we had a really nasty storm come through, felled 2 trees, which destroyed her 2 cars and part of her house. So there's so many stories like this that people have shared with me over the last year. It's truly been a year where almost no one that I know was unscathed by death of a loved one through the pandemic. Maybe you had one of those nasty tropical events that came. I think at one point we had 6 or 7 of them at one time that had anything from massive flood issues to destruction through tornadoes to hurricanes, fires out west, the stress of the election. And so this has been a particularly turbulent year for many of us. So I thought, what a perfect time, but to get reoriented, to open up a new chapter in the book of our lives and to look at how we could do that, how we could put our best foot forward, how we could go forth irrespective of the tragedies that may have assaulted us over the course of the last year and a half. And my guest is just the perfect person, because we're going to go old school here. We're going to talk about etiquette. And no, I know some of you are thinking, really, Nelson, we're going to talk about how to set place settings at the dining room table? No, because really etiquette is something that is present anywhere, anytime you do, you be, or you go anywhere. So there's etiquette for being with a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, or a wife. There is etiquette for being in a classroom. There is etiquette, believe it or not, folks, and I'm speaking to you folks on social media right now, for how to be on social media. And I'm going to give you a big hint. It isn't going off with 14 expletives about how stupid somebody is because they don't support your political beliefs. So we're going to talk about how you can really polish your life and look at issues of how you are in the world, how you are in public, and you can improve the way you connect with people. See, ultimately, I think at the end of our lives, the things that we really remember, and I'm speaking as an informed individual because I've had cancer twice. I lived through it twice, and it was pretty scary. And there was a time near the end, particularly of the first one, we caught the second bout pretty quickly, but where I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure whether I was going to make it or not. And that's an interesting place to be in life. And so what occurred to me when I was in those final moments where I realized I needed to have something virtually miraculous happen, or I knew that I was going to die. I was just bleeding too much, and I knew I couldn't continue bleeding internally as I was because it wasn't consistent with life being supported. And thank God I had my answers prayed, and I stopped bleeding, and I saw a series of healthcare professionals that turned my life around, and I am in this world as a result of those 3 remarkable people, 2 of which, interestingly, are no longer with us. But the thing that I can tell you is this. I don't care what kind of pandemic is at hand. I don't care the cruelty of the world with fires, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes. There will always be things in this world that are challenging, too incredibly challenging for us. Many of you have lost family members. I've had 3 people already die since the beginning of the year, and it's, the 5th day of the year? So we're starting off consistently with where we were last year, but we're going to look at it differently today. And I say that because when I was at the end where I wasn't sure I was going to make it, here's what was important to me. It wasn't whether I owned the yacht that I thought I wanted when I was a young man. It wasn't that I owned the enormous house, or that I had multiple houses, or that I held a jet, or that I drove a Maserati. The funny thing is I didn't think about any of that. What I thought about was who was going to be there to help my family, who was going to take care of my patients, I say that because if we really all want to be happy, then we have to rely on something called connection. And without connection, there's no happiness ultimately. You're always fighting yourself. You're fighting pain. You're fighting the suffering of all the things you're constantly up against while going through life. We're going to talk about that because one of the ways that you create connection is through etiquette. So put aside your thoughts about what etiquette is, because I have a superstar. Her name is NITA PATEL, and she has written this book. And though it is not large, it is another example of a book that is concise and that is mighty and will change your life. Because it's sometimes those things that you don't know that can destroy the fabric of your life. And what I mean by that is this. I've spoken to a lot of people over the years, younger people in particular, who post things that I would hope my kids would never post. And I say to them on occasion, why did you post that? Well, because I wanted to, because I thought it was wild. I thought it was crazy. I want people to know how wild and crazy I am. And I said to them, are you aware that you're also going to be in positions where it will not be thought of as particularly valuable to be too wild and too crazy, like showing pictures of yourself in a drunken stupor with your mouth open, scantily clad for the world to see and not in control in any way, shape, or form. I said, what do you think a boss is going to think of that? And they usually think, well, a boss has no business on my social media site. And I say to them, well, you might be right. The problem is, these days, most bosses will undoubtedly check out your social media site. So let's look today with my dear friend and colleague and the queen, if you will, of etiquette, the author of Boss Vibes, NITA PATEL. NITA, welcome.
Oh,
It's great to have you here. And I understand congratulations are in order. You now have a best-selling book, Boss Vibes. You're an author.
thank
You're
you.
a life coach. You're many, many things. You're a delight. I'm so happy you're on my show. And I can't wait to pursue this conversation because I love the saying, God lives in the details. And you are someone who understands the details of etiquette. What prompted you to even consider the importance of etiquette, first of all?
I would say it was a part of my foundational upbringing. I grew up in two completely different cultures, and a part of the time that I was going to school, I went to school in two different countries. And I went to school in England and I went to school in the States through my elementary years.
Right.
And I noticed a vast difference in how you had to dress, how you had to conduct yourself in both places. The discipline, the level of discipline. And so, all of that was just a very foundational part of who I was. And it evolved as I grew up and as I pursued my corporate life, and how I saw people. I interviewed a lot of people in my corporate life and, just felt really compelled to share the information based on how people showed up for interviews, based on how people showed up to a meeting, or just having these level of expectations of where they wanted their career to go, but not really having the awareness of how they were presenting themselves or bringing themselves, to a situation, to a problem, to a meeting, whatever it was.
Right. NITA, I'm guessing you were initially raised in the UK, and then you went from London, I believe, to the United States, to Dallas specifically. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
NITA, tell us a little bit about the difference in etiquette, because I've been to London. London is a very different place than Dallas, Texas. Tell us about what it was like, because this brings to point to me that, one, to be really successful and effective in life, you've got to know that there may be different characteristics of etiquette, if you will, in, for example, Europe, the UK specifically, or the South, as in Dallas. Tell us what it was like to go from one part of the world to another, and you having to understand the subtleties, or maybe they aren't so subtle, of going from one part of the world to the other with regard to etiquette and its use.
Like you said, every part of the country, especially here in the United States, it's such a large space, every area has their own culture. And so, but for me, as a young child, going from one extreme to the other, where in London, there was so much discipline. You had to wear a tie every day. You had to, you had to dress up. Your clothes had to be pressed, steamed. You just had to look your very best, even though all you were going to do was go to school and, go to social studies and math class that day. It didn't matter. But the fact that you had to show up in a very particular way, and not only that, it was how you sat at the desk as well, how you spoke to your classmates. You had to always sit up straight. You always had to have your posture perfect. Your legs, as a girl, you couldn't cross your legs in a certain way. You couldn't cross your legs at the knees. I think now people refer to that as how queens or princesses sit, where you cross your you cross your legs at the ankle.
Right.
But that was something that was taught to me at a very young age. And then I would come to the States for school the next year, and it would just be the polar opposite. You could wear anything you wanted. You could sit however you wanted. You really had to do so much to push the boundaries of teachers, and, you still wouldn't get in trouble. It was really just day and night.
NITA, I'm not going to pretend I'm a fan of wearing a tie, but I will say this. One of the things I love about the English culture is you're always presenting your best. Here, often with a lot of the young people I meet, it's almost the antithesis of that. It's like, here's how slovenly I'm going to occur so that I can express the uniqueness that is me to the world. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be allowed to express your uniqueness, but there has to be a happy balance between let me be respectfully presented, not excessively tatted, pierced, using expletives every other word, and presenting yourself in a way that is optimized for connecting and excelling in the world with regard to people around you.
Yeah. I mean, I think people get lost in, especially today, authenticity is so important to people. And, like you mentioned earlier, social media, especially, people talk about authenticity all day long, and they get it mixed up with, there's a fine line with being authentic and being professional. And not even England versus, down south. Yeah. I would say, let's talk about New York versus California. It's pretty much the same. If you're in New York and you're working in finance, you're wearing a tie, you're wearing a suit, you're very polished. You're going into the office in California, you're very relaxed. You can wear jeans and, a shirt, maybe a blazer for a meeting. Perfectly acceptable. So keeping that in mind, I think where people get confused is they think that being authentic means it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. It doesn't matter what, they think. They can get out of bed in their pajamas and go to the grocery store. That's not authenticity. That's just a lack of respect, I would say. And I think those are some of the little quirks that people don't understand. I had a client that I worked with last year who thought that she was being authentic all the time. And I explained to her this concept, and I said, try wearing a suit to work. And I said, maybe not even a suit, try different outfits, try just a clean black dress, try wearing a nice shirt and slacks. It doesn't have to be formal, but just try a variation of different things. And I said, put your favorite pair of earrings on one day. She experimented, and, she said, well, at the beginning, she was like, well, I don't care about impressing others. And I think that's what a lot of people feel etiquette is about, is impressing socially what others think. But she tried it, and she came back to me a couple of weeks later, and she said, you're right. I said, what happened? She said, people respect me like I have authority, and I didn't do anything different.
Right.
So there you go. It's really about understanding how to balance authenticity with your professionalism. And it, again, awareness, knowing where you're at, if you're based on what part of country you're at, or
right.
If you're at a casual restaurant versus a 5-star restaurant, it's completely different in how you would conduct yourself.
Yes.
Just the awareness.
Perfect. Nita, we're going to take our first commercial break. Folks, I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. You're listening to my first show in the year 2021. Can you believe that? We're finally here. It has arrived. And my guest is NITA PATEL, and we're talking about her book, Boss Vibes. We'll be right back.
This is Kurt Arsenault of Arsenault Advisory Group. Most of us never think we'll get divorced. Unfortunately, half of marriages will end in divorce. Children are always the first priority, but getting your finances in order will need to be addressed. The first step is to get an assessment of where you are financially. Will you keep your home? Do one or both of you have a 401k or pension? Who will pay for the kids' college education? Will you split your debt liabilities? These are just a few things to consider when thinking about divorce. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com and download our free ebook titled 6 Things to Do Before You Get Divorced. Don't wait. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com today.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Nelson Bulmash. I'm back. Listen, I want to share some exciting things with you. My show should go, I'm told, to Roku TV and Apple TV sometime next month. I'm very, very excited about that. I know that last I heard, Roku TV had a base of over 17 million people, and that was some months ago, and they're growing rapidly. So very, very exciting news. I also want to thank all those people who are listening to me here in Atlanta on WDJY FM 99.1. And my friends, fans, and followers who are catching the show. I love this because I know those of you who are listening to this radio station, WTTA 101.2 FM in Kentucky and Ohio. Really appreciate all of you. And for the rest of you who are catching my show on all of the major social media platforms, it is a pleasure. Know how much I truly get and appreciate the expense of your time, your energy, and your effort in joining me and sharing my show. My show continues to grow, and it grows because not only do you enjoy it, but you share it with those who also enjoy it. And I know that because I have great conversations with many of you. So thank you. UI Media Network is looking for a few like-minded interns to assist in getting the network's message out. Email us at contact@uimedianetwork.org. All right, Nita, thank you again. Nita, you said something that was very important to me, and that is that part of being intelligent and always looking to represent yourself the best that you can wherever you are. I don't care if it's a party. I don't care if you're meeting the Queen. I don't care if you're at a scientific a symposium. Anywhere you go, it's important to know the subtle nuances of how etiquette is different in different areas. So in other words, you could do one thing in Georgia that you might never do, let's say in New York City.
Absolutely, Nelson. Absolutely. And like I mentioned earlier, you can go to fine dining in the same city and have a different dress code, and you go to a casual restaurant and it's okay to walk in with jeans. And so I think it's about having the awareness. And if you don't, do research. We have the world at our fingertips. So do research on where you're going and what they're expecting. It's again, I think the message that I like sharing with people over and over is, with that awareness, you create respect for yourself. And that's what opens doors in life for you.
Right.
It's not the etiquette that you practice directly, but it's how it creates respect for yourself. Then others respect you. And then that opens doors for you. Otherwise, why is someone going to want to connect with you? as you talked about earlier when you mentioned connections.
Yeah. Nita, I want to share an experience that happened to me recently. I don't personally go to fast food restaurants as a general rule, though I'll go to a Moe's maybe because the quality of their food is actually pretty good. They get their food, I'm told, here in the South from the same companies that Whole Foods does. So I will, if I'm in a hurry, I'll go to a place like Moe's or Chipotle to get food. And they're not, they're not crazy strict about the way you dress. As long as you're reasonably clad, you can wear almost anything you want as long as your torso's covered and you're wearing pants. I had a very interesting experience. One of my very successful friends said, Nelson, let's treat ourselves. It's been a really hard year. So we have a small men's group that I co-founded with one of my very best friends about 23, 24, 25 years ago. And he said, let's step up our game a little bit. Let's go to Papa's Restaurant, a restaurant which you probably haven't heard of, but it's here in the metro Atlanta area. And in 2012, it was selected as the #1 steakhouse in the United States. I was unaware of that before I went. I didn't do my research. Now, thank goodness, I thought, if we're going to step up our game a little bit, I'm going to dress up a little bit, right? But when I went there, they had a sign posted that no tennis shoes, no shorts, a whole dress code about how you were supposed to. And at first I was like, oh, really? We're going to, get all up on, you have to look this way and that way. But I want to share something with you. I went in, I had one of the best, if not the best experiences of my life eating at that restaurant. Not only was the food beyond anything, quite frankly, that I had ever eaten, I would put it as the #1 restaurant that I ever ate at, but the respectfulness, the attentiveness, and not in an annoying way, the waiters were unbelievable. And I want to give you a quick example of that. I'm getting ready to leave, and I love spoiling my wife, and I love spoiling any of my kids if they happen to be with me. So the gentleman said, do you want any dessert? And I said, I don't want anybody. I want to surprise my wife and daughter. And so I picked out a dessert, and it had ice cream in it. He said, sir, let me wait until you're ready to walk out the door, and I will hand you the ice cream, and you can put it in your bag and take it out. So when I got home, not only did he wait so the ice cream would be presented well and would not have been melted, but he had it packed in ice. It was literally surrounded by ice in my carry-out bag. And I took it home and I took it out, and my wife and daughter went, oh my God. I mean, it made such a statement. Never before had they had me bring home a dessert that was in its own container, ice cream, and completely intact, not melted at all. And the experience we had was, I can't wait to go back. They respected me. I respected them. And it really made me aware of how important this concept that you talk about so often, that's all over your book, which is the real key to your book. One of the major themes is to respect yourself and to be respectful in a world so that respect is reciprocated. I love that.
Yeah. I mean, and to add to the food experience part, like you said, it was an experience versus a dinner. Right. And it was an unforgettable moment, right? And the more of those you have, the more you elevate your day-to-day experiences. Not to say that you have to go to the best restaurant in town to have that experience. You can do that at home as well. But a lot of times what happens is, you grab dinner and you sit on the couch and you turn Netflix on.
Right.
You turn the TV on and you can create that same experience at home. Yes, no one's waiting on you. But if you plan it out a little bit, instead turn some music on, light candles, you can create that same elevated experience at home, and still have it be a part of your day to day. And the reason I want to share that with you is because, going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but, we talk about success. People chase success every day, all day. That's kind of the culture that has become of the world. We are workaholics. That's all we focus on.
Right.
And we think that there's this one big thing that's going to happen where we find appreciation and we celebrate, but it's really every day, right? Like you said, it's the experience that you felt, and you weren't, you probably weren't celebrating something that was life, a life milestone, something that was so compelling. You just went out to dinner and you had this experience, and now you want to replicate it. And so how do you find that way of living every day? And to me, that's what etiquette is about. And I use the word modern etiquette. I use the word modern manners because I think that's a little bit more fitting for today. Mm-hmm. It's not about impressing socially, but it's about doing all the things that help you feel good. They help you feel confident. They boost your self-esteem.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny because my mother was from old school Europe. And I come from a family of people that were very, very educated, doctors, lawyers, attorneys. And I don't say that boastfully, but it was demanded for you to show up in the culture a particular way, being very educated and refined. And I was really kind of always, I thought of that as a real downer. But what I got as I grew up, and I'm not saying you have to wear a suit and tie every day, but there's something really beautiful about representing yourself with the manner in which you speak, the tone of which you speak, your vocabulary, the way that you invite people in to participate in a communication process that allows you both to gain in the exchange. That's beautiful to me. And I think if you can live out of that place, which is what you advocate, it gives you a lot more wonder and splendor of life.
Yeah, I mean, let's even take the quarantine period that we've been living through. You know, I can guarantee you the people who, everybody's on Zoom calls all day long, the people that are working from home.
Right.
You know, you may never leave your house for 5 days, 7 days at a time. But the people who get up, they wash their hair, they fix it, they put their best self together, even if they're not going to leave the house.
Right.
I guarantee you they feel so much better about themselves. In fact, they probably didn't go through any low points, feeling depressed, or, you know, those points where, whether compared to people who didn't do that, you know, they were like, well, I'm at home. No one's going to see me. No one cares. You know,
Sure.
Let me not wash my hair for 2 weeks because no one is here to see that. They walk around in their pajamas all day. That's a much different vibe. And in fact, you can't even make the right decisions when you're in that vibe, when you're in that place.
Right.
And so it's so critical wherever you are to give yourself that on a day-to-day basis. It really elevates your moods. It's a part of your emotional health as much as it is about your respect and how you're reflected as
NITA,
a person.
I just love that you brought that up, because here's the thing. You may not necessarily get it when you're sitting watching TV or working at the dining room table, but you sure will when you look in the mirror and you see your hair is unkempt. I don't know, maybe you have no makeup on, maybe your nails aren't done, maybe you haven't washed your face. You know, the mirror doesn't lie. And I want to share kind of a neat thing that happened to me when I was a little boy coming home from elementary school. I was in kindergarten, and my mother was just like the best mom you could ever have. And she was waiting for me. She was a little nervous, she said years later. She said, sweetheart, I used to worry about you. It was a long way from your elementary school to our house. And you wanted to be such, using the language of me being in high school, so autonomous. You wanted to be your little old man self and go to school holding your little bag and go there and have your day and then walk home by yourself because you could. And so I'll never forget this story. I met her in the alley, and I remember recoiling like this when I saw her one day, and I said, Mommy, you look so beautiful. How come? And I'll never forget her response. She said, well, sweetheart, your dad is around beautiful women all day long at work. Do you think I want him to come home to a frumpy, unkept wife? I don't know what the word frumpy means, Mommy. She said, let's just say not looking pretty, honey. And I said, no, I don't think so, Mommy. I think he'd want a pretty mommy. I was in kindergarten. But right, so there's a beautiful etiquette there for husbands and wives or boyfriends and girlfriends. And I want to share one more quick thing with you. What I did and I never ran out of this, and then we'll take a quick commercial break and come back. One of the things I did, knowing that, my wife and I, though we worked, we were still in quarantine on the days we didn't work. I did little things like I hid chocolate. So we played games that I had organic dark chocolate, 80% cacao. And so my wife would look at me and she'd say, sweetheart, do you have any chocolate anywhere for me? And I used to say, yes, I do, sweetheart. You'll have to find it. We'll be right back, and we'll continue this conversation. That's my have an agreeable exchange and make her feel better by me being in her life and in her presence. Folks, Dr. Nelson Bulmash, we'll be right back. You're listening to the first edition of 2021 of Health Matters. My guest is NITA Patel. NITA Patel, and we'll be right back.
This is Kurt Arsenault of Arsenault Advisory Group. Do you make a six-figure income but live paycheck to paycheck? You're not alone. Many six-figure income households will buy too much home and too much car, creating tremendous financial stress that builds debt when you should be building wealth. If you make six figures and live paycheck to paycheck, visit arsenaultadvisory.com and download our free ebook titled, I Make Six Figures and Live Paycheck to Paycheck. You have nothing to lose and potentially everything to gain. Visit arsenaultadvisory.com today.
All right, everyone, we're back after that commercial break. NITA, let's talk about another one of the points that it just glimmers all throughout this book, and that is the power of connection. Talk to us about how you really improve your ability to connect, because with connection comes respect. You develop agreeability. You develop all those things that are required to make life work. Tell us about how important it is to connect, and what are some of the best ways for people to connect through etiquette?
Sure. And I will link it to your very last statement about the chocolate hiding. To me, that is being present. You were very much there in that moment, and that's why you were able to have that enjoyable exchange. And when you're not present, you can't connect, right? A lot of times we're just like heads down in our devices all day. We don't even know that we're hitting the door in someone's face because we're opening it for ourselves and we're in our phones, and then we just keep going. And, we're not present. We don't understand and see what's around us. And so I think finding that is really one of the ways, especially today, to help us step out of our technology and connect. But I think that being connected and connectedness, it's one of my top 5 core values, actually. I have it on my office wall right in front of me. I think it's a critical part of emotional and mental health, because at the end of the day, you could have everything in the world, but if you don't have that connectedness, then, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you have or don't have. I think that is a huge part of our personal wealth. It's a part of our health. And I just really think that connecting with others, and it's not just your soulmate. It's not just, your family. It's all kinds of connections.
Sure.
It's your significant other. It's your family, but it's your best friend. It's connecting with your hairdresser. It's connecting with the person who always rings up your groceries. It's connecting with everyone, with your networks, your social circles. There's so many different types of connections, and I like to call them soulful connections, because
I love that.
To me, you take some inspiration piece away from that connection, and that's what intensifies and feeds that connection, right? When you have that exchange and you're inspiring one another. And again, it doesn't matter if, like I said, if it's someone who's ringing up your groceries, they smile at you, you smile back at them. That could have been the first time you smiled while you were shopping around for 45 minutes.
Right.
But that's a gift. And, that's the present moment, and you're receiving that gift and you're giving it back. And so it's so many little things that add up to something so profound and so meaningful in our life.
NITA, I had such a great experience last night. I'd worked a wonderful day. It was my first real full day back after the holidays. And I had someone call, and they needed supplements. I think they were unwell. And my wife, who's the office manager, promised that we would get their supplies out to them yesterday night before UPS closed. So I got there right at the witching hour, meaning they were closing. I pulled in, I got out of my car, and I saw them turning out the lights in the UPS depot. And I went, no, please, because I'm a person, if I say I'm going to do something, integrity about doing it is very, very important to me, Nita. And so I put my hand up like this, and I smiled and waved, and one of the women put her finger up like this, and she said, come on in. And I said, you have no idea. Thank you. I am so grateful for you. And the woman looked at me and she had a big smile. And she said, Dr. Bulmash, we'd do anything for you. You are always so kind, so courteous. You ask us every time you come in, how are you? Is there anything that you can do for us? By giving us information that would improve their health and happiness. They said, we will always keep the lights on for you.
That is so wonderful. And that's exactly synonymous to my grocery store example, because building a relationship with everyone matters.
Right.
Everyone.
I love the quote by the famous John Muir, who started the Sierra Club. It's one of my favorite quotes. And forgive me, I'm not fabulous at getting verbatim the quote, but here's his idea. He said this, Nita. He said, all things exist as a courtesy for all other things. When you can live into that quote, Nita, I couldn't do the show today without you. I'm helping you get your message out. I'm helping people know about your fantastic book. We're here as a courtesy for each other. And if we can stop separating each other by age, religion, ideology, ideological differences, political differences, and just say, hey, this is my belief, this is yours. Let's find common ground. Let's connect and create some workability here. Life gets way better and way, way more fun.
Yes, it does. It does. And, I can give you a very, very simplistic example since we're on that theme.
Yes,
right
please.
Now.
Absolutely.
Your UPS example just reminded me Tuesday is trash day for us. And, if I'm in the kitchen, which is right by the garage door, I often keep the door open because I have part of my art studio in the garage. And so if I'm anywhere near the area and I hear the guys coming by, I will open the door and just wave from my house, but I will wave to them. And I don't know when I started doing it. I think it was fairly recently, probably last year, I would say. I waved to them, and I will tell you, my garbage cans are never knocked over.
Yeah, I get it.
They're always intact.
That's such a beautiful story, because I've spoken to so many garbage men. I have not quite a beautiful story like that, but I was speaking to the garbage gentleman, I don't know, a month, 2 months ago, and he said, "Thank you for always being so kind to me and always waving at me." I said, "Of course, you're welcome. You have a major part of my life here. You remove the trash from my life." And he said,
"That's important."
I said, I really appreciate that you get that. Most people just look at me as a garbage man, and they equate me with garbage." I said, "I'm really sorry to hear that, because to me, one of the ways the plague got started in Europe is because people were throwing their trash, and it was attracting rats that had fleas that carried the disease bubonic plague. Life would not be very happy for us, Nita, if we didn't have people who got rid of our trash."
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're talking to a CEO. It doesn't matter if you're talking to someone famous, a celebrity, or someone that's in your day-to-day life who provides a service for you. To me, treating people equally with respect is so important.
Yeah, it sure is. Nita, let's look at this a little bit more specifically. What are some of the do's and don'ts that you should pay attention to, for example, in the business world with regard to etiquette?
I could tell you so many stories here.
Tell us whatever you like, whatever you think is important for people to get.
I think there's so much to say. As you can tell, I have a whole chapter on it. I could probably write a whole book on on just business etiquette. But, I think everything still goes back to knowing who you are going to be in front of that day, where you are,
right?
What the culture is asking for. And it's not that you're complying, or it's not that you are, following their rules. It's really about stepping above that. You're looking for a bigger project. You're looking for a promotion. You're looking to be better and to be bigger because you want that door of success to open up for you. And so it's important for you to understand who you're going to be in front of and how to really have that presence within you, that confidence. And one of the ways to do that is by dressing in a respectful way,
right?
By conducting yourself in, a certain body language, showing that you're interested, that you care. There's so many different, and I want to say they're little things, but they all add up to, they create the perception of who you are. And that's how people see you.
That's so true and so beautiful. I want to read. I love the way you write. There's some things here that I wanted to point out. One of the things that you wrote here is just so beautiful because I do everything I can as often as possible to embody this. Here on page 88 of Boss Vibes, you have getting ahead graciously. I love this. Graciousness is the most elevated tier of etiquette, one that improves the world and embodies concern and respect for others. And the more you practice it, the more you benefit from it. And what better place could there be than the workplace?
Absolutely. Nelson, I have seen people who are highly educated. They have multiple degrees. They are incredible at what they do, but they're not presenting themselves in a certain way. They're dressing like they're going to the grocery store. And that's, again, where I talk about people not understanding authenticity versus professionalism, especially in the workplace. And then you have the other extreme where I've interviewed people who thought that they were going to a party. And, this one lady that came to interview for a very technical role in a very conservative company, just had big dangly earrings on and her nails were glittery and she had big bangles and a sparkly watch. And I was so busy watching her the whole time.
Yes.
I don't even know what she said.
Right. I get it. It's funny. I want to share another quote with you. So years ago, I thought it might be valuable because I really wanted to be successful in life. I wanted to be successful in my marriage, as a father, as a friend, as a doctor, and now as a host. And I was speaking to a gentleman who was known pretty far and wide for his ability to teach people the distinctions of international leadership. And one of the things that he said to me one day on an elevator, he was looking at me and he said, "Nelson, I always want you to remember this." And I said, "What's that?" He said, "Leave people with your message, not your uniqueness. If you're distracting people with an unusual hair color or big dangling earrings or excessively long fingernails or excessive tattoos or piercings, you become a distraction from what you're there to do, which is to share a message that could change the course of events at a world level, potentially, if you're studying to be a leader internationally." I never forgot that. Like, don't get in the way of the message.
Yeah, that reminds me of Emerson's quote, which I love. It's what you do speaks so loud, I cannot hear what you say.
I love that. That's one of my favorite quotes. That's so great. Yeah, leave people. I think that's really one of the bottom lines of what you talk about is certainly be authentic, be yourself, but don't be so yourself that you become a distraction so that others can't get the message of who you are and what you're there for. So
right. Yeah, you're there to share your message. You're there to share your expertise, and you want people to see you as the message that you're trying to deliver. I mean, it's kind of like when you take as simple as when you take a bio picture. You don't want to have all this excessive jewelry or accessories. You don't want to wear anything colorful because you want your smile to shine through when people look at your picture.
Yes.
You want your genuine, that's being authentic.
Right.
Not having a bio picture in your pajamas or torn jeans.
Yes, exactly.
But
NITA,
making sure that your smile comes through.
of course. NITA, I'm sorry to interrupt you. We've got our last commercial break. We'll be right back, folks. I'm Dr. Nelson Bulmash. I'm talking to just the incredible NITA Patel, and we're discussing the distinctions of her book, Boss Vibes. Excuse me. It's hot under these lights. I'm a little parched. And we're talking about how using etiquette effectively can catapult your life, whether it be in your relationships with friends, your significant other, your coworkers, your boss, or anywhere you find yourself in life. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
If this content resonates with you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel at uimedianetwork.org to stay updated with our uncensored shows. Also, like and follow us at UI Media Network on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and almost all your favorite podcasting platforms. Most importantly, if you're being censored on social media, write to us at contact@uimedianetwork.org to get your message out. And remember, keep raising that frequency.
All right, we're back. NITA, you're so much fun, and I can't believe we're down to the last segment of our show, and I want at least one more hour with you. I'm going to have you back. I hope you'll be back again.
This is so much fun. I can't believe we only have 15 minutes left.
I know, but we'll have many more great times together, I promise. You're an absolute joy to be with, and you've got such valuable information. One of my mentors said to me years ago, Nelson, God lives in the details. And really what I hear in your words as I read them aloud in my mind or as I speak to you, NITA, every time I spend time with you, I get the importance of details. Like you're sitting here before me, and you're just... it's just amazing to look at you. You're so perfectly coiffed and assembled that, and I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but anyone who sees this is going to be captured by how you present yourself. And, once again, God lives in the details. Etiquette is all about presenting yourself in a manner that is so agreeable that you can have an exchange of ideas, an exchange of opportunities that allow everyone present to grow and to gain. I love that.
Thank you so much.
You're very, very welcome, NITA. So let's try to encapsulate some of this. What are some of the keys that you want to pay attention to with the backdrop of etiquette kind of in your everyday affairs? Does that make sense? What kind of things do you really want to pay attention to from an etiquette perspective, wherever you are, wherever you go, whether it's saying goodbye to your sweetheart, whether it's, hugging your children, whether it's going to work, whether it's shopping at the grocery store? What are some basic etiquette points that you just always want to be aware of and have them inform you as you go forth in life?
That's a loaded question. I think that what you just said, having awareness
right
about where you are, it's simple. It's not that there are all these rules and different rules for different places. It's not really, and again, that's why I call it modern etiquette or modern manners. But to me, the definition, and I should say my definition of modern manners is knowing where you're at, having that awareness of what's around you, and taking the appropriate action against that. That really sums it up in a nutshell. And so whether you're at the grocery store and, you're in someone's way, knowing that you're in someone's way. Some people don't know that.
Right. No, that's a good point.
Some people, right? Or they're talking on the phone really loud with their earbuds in their ears, and they have no concept of what's going on around them. And so it's really about having that awareness of where you are and what's happening around you. So I think that is the biggest key. The other thing that I would say is body language. And that speaks volumes about who you are, how you feel, and how people see you. And I didn't really know as much about this until I started studying it in more depth as I was writing my book. I wanted to write about body language, but I didn't understand the scientific results behind shifting your body language. And I think that's something that's very profound that people don't necessarily have awareness around. So when you're not feeling good, when you stretch your arms out in a V shape, doing a victory pose, or in fact, if you do the victory pose first thing in the morning, it changes the physiology of your body. It changes your body chemistry.
Sure.
And, that allows you to be in a better mood. And so, I think we've talked about this before, but all of this ties into your emotional health so critically. And body language, especially, you can feel confident by doing a confidence pose for 2 minutes. It lowers your cortisol levels. It increases your testosterone. I like sharing the cliche Mad Men pose where the men have their legs crossed at their desk and they have their arms behind their heads and, they're kind of leaned back in their chairs. Right. But they were onto something. That pose, if you stay in that pose for 2 minutes and you're feeling uncomfortable, you're not feeling good about a conversation you're about to walk into, try that pose. And it truly changes the body chemistry. And it elevates your testosterone levels. It decreases your stress levels. And so you feel confident. And so, like I said, there are reasons that people did things in the traditional etiquette sense.
Right.
But we convert that to what applies to us in our modern world today.
Of course, absolutely. You have such a great quote here. Mood shouldn't dictate your manners or your behavior. And that's right. I mean, we all have bad days, but because you're having an off day doesn't mean it's appropriate to be nasty if you're waiting in line and somebody's not hurrying up. When you're in traffic and you get on your horn and start honking the horn uncontrollably. And these are like little things, but important things. I remember one day, Nita, my wife called me and she said, honey, I'm really, really sorry about this. I know how much your workouts mean to you. I got caught up in something. I'm all the way across town. You're only a few blocks from picking up the kids. Would you mind? I said, of course I don't mind, honey. I'm happy to do that. So I got in my truck and I'm heading several blocks away to get my kids. And I noticed that the traffic is really, really long, Nita, in one direction. And these cars are there while I'm there for 10 minutes. No one's letting them in. So I let these two groups in and I could just see them. Like one woman blew me a kiss. Another guy said, thank you. And I let him in. The guy behind me went berserk. He went absolutely crazy. He got on his horn. You could see him pounding on his dash and his wheel. And I thought, goodness, I mean, Nita, when I tell you it took 3 seconds, these people were so ready to get out into traffic. There was no hesitation. They went immediately like a bullet from the gas station onto the main road. This guy decides what I did was harmed him so much. He gets in front of me, Nita, on in a major intersection and pulls me over like this so I can't proceed. Jumps out of his car and wants to fight me in the middle of this intersection. It's like... So, your point here, mood shouldn't dictate your manners. That's etiquette too. Like, don't be that person who's waiting in a line or who goes into road rage because somebody does a nice action and lets two people out who've been there for 10 minutes because nobody's been paying enough attention to realize those poor souls have to get out and get somewhere too.
Yeah. And in fact, I would say, I would say the opposite in the sense, let someone in front of you every time you're out driving. It's actually, it's doing a good thing. We talk about giving and receiving all the time. And it's like, oh, well, I need money to give and I don't have the money to give. This is a way of giving. And you see the return, it's all very, very energetic and you see that return. And it may not be that someone's letting you in, they may not. But it also makes you feel good, right?
Yes.
Nita, you're doing a nice thing.
It was such a simple gesture. And here's what was interesting about it. I want to share the remainder real quickly of this story because it was quite interesting how it played out. I'm a really nice guy. I'm not a guy that ever looks for trouble with anybody. Matter of fact, I'm the opposite of that. I'm the guy that always looks to make wherever I go better because that's how I was reared. Son, anywhere you go, find a way to make it a better place for the people who are there sharing the space with you. So I was at the gym. I was wearing a tank top, Nita. I'm a big guy, and I had my arm out the window. It was a summer day, and all of a sudden this guy runs up on me like he's going to drag me out of my truck, and he sees that, oh, this is not a small man. He's actually a very built, powerful-looking man. And all of a sudden he has this recoil shock and starts apologizing to me, and I looked at him and I said, look, I understand you may be having a bad day. This is completely unacceptable and inappropriate. I'm going to politely and humbly ask you to get back in your car and never do this again. Do you understand me? I do. It was the weirdest thing in my life. People got out, opened up their car doors and started clapping because it didn't end up, it wasn't this crazy violent thing where somebody got killed. I kept my cool. I didn't engage him in a way that continued this act. And so I acted with an etiquette that inspired everyone around me. Now, the people ahead of me didn't see this, I'm sure, but everyone around me, I mean, this was like 8 lanes across. And so people were clapping because it was
amazing.
Right. It was right at a major intersection, like at least 4 lanes wide on each side. And so it was like, how awesome was that? The guy handled the situation. Nobody got killed. Nobody got shot. Nobody got stabbed. And I gave him a little bit of advice to make his day a little brighter, that he wasn't harmed, that he wasn't shot on that day. Because in Georgia and Texas, you don't play with that stuff. Right?
No, no, you don't.
Nita, sorry for taking a little extra time, but that was just such a neat experience to have people get out of their cars and literally applaud how I handled that. I couldn't believe it. Like 4 or 5 cars deep, people were clapping. So
that's amazing.
That's an example of etiquette, right? Like
absolutely
finding agreeability. I get it. You're in a rush or you're in a hurry, but if you have time to stop to fight me in the middle of a busy intersection, you can't be in that much of a hurry, right?
Right.
Hey, Nita, listen, we got a couple more minutes. Is there anything that you like really? I know I want to let people know how to get a hold of you, how to purchase your book. But before we even go to that place, is there anything in particular that you want to share with people that you think really helps them shine in life with regard to etiquette? Any little jewels you want to share?
I would say that if you are, to me, this book is it's for everyone. As you know, it's for teens, it's for students graduating college, but really it's for people who are looking to elevate their life, and they're wanting more out of life. They're wanting to get to the next level. That's who the book is really for. And if you just follow 2, 3, I call them 2-degree shifts. You just take 2 or 3 different tips from the book and apply them to your day-to-day, you will automatically see the change in how you feel, how it changes your confidence level, how it changes your self-esteem. And it could be something as simple as the eating conversation that we had about how to have, a simple dinner at home, but without the TV, light candles, turn some music on. It could be as simple as that, to making sure that you're dressed appropriately for wherever you're going. And looking at the mirror, and asking yourself, if my uncle sees me, or, if my grandfather sees me, what are they going to think?
Yes.
And the answer. You know the answer. But asking yourself that question before you walk out of the door, and making that decision, I think those are all the 2-degree shifts that will help you feel better about yourself. You will find that people respect you differently. They respect you more. And that's really what opens up doors in life for you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Nita, so much for being my guest. It was such a pleasure for you to be with me, to talk about your book, Boss Vibes. I can't wait to have you. You're that person that I love to spend time with. You and I'll get on the phone and all of a sudden I'll blink and it's like, I just spent 90 minutes with Nita. You're so easy to be with. And that's one of the things about etiquette. It allows you to feel very comfortable, because with etiquette comes agreeability. Thank you again, Nita. I'll be right with you. I hope you can hold on one second. I got to close out the show. Folks, get her book. You can read it in a few hours. Just implementing one little tidbit, even a day, you're going to find the quality of your life improves dramatically. You'll find friends everywhere you go. I know, because I implement a lot of what she suggests. And I never, as a general rule, I never find a bad person. Folks, I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'm going to be interviewing Nikki Bruno. We're going to be talking about how to get over bad relationships as fast as possible so you can regain control and ownership of your life and go forth in a way that serves you, in a way that leaves you happy and on target to be and do as you please. Thank you again. Signing out.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of Health Matters with Dr. Nelson Bulmash, where we help you discover how to ignite your mind, body, and spirit connection. Join us next time when we will bring you more exciting guests and engaging topics. Meanwhile, feed your mind, exercise your body, and nurture your spirit. The United Intentions Foundation and its associates take no responsibility for the opinions and statements made by the talk show hosts or their guests.